everybody. Welcome to America's Podcast. I'm your host, Don Ledesma. Welcome to today's show. You know, we're going to be talking a little bit today about early voting. Yeah, that's what it's about, you know, because it's already out there, you know, since yesterday, I believe. And we went out to go vote. And I told the wife, I said, you know what, I'd rather go early. I said, let's just go early and get it done, right? And that's what we're supposed to do, right? Just get it all done. And then she says, you know what? That's a good idea. Let's go. You know why? Because we're super, super busy people, constantly on the go. We're constantly on the go, man. It's a go, go, go around here in the Ledesma house, man. And that's the way we are. And some people out there don't have the luxuries of taking a day off, things like that. But, you know, we do have the luxury of working from home. Yes, it's hard, but we're constantly on the go because of it. It's almost like having a real job, really, in reality, you know, as far as us here. But today's podcast is pretty much about early voting. And, you know, the good thing about that is that if you do it now, and this is the main goal here, is it doesn't matter who you're voting for, left, right, independent, doesn't matter. It's get there early because you don't know when something's going to happen in another couple of weeks from now, right? You might have a catastrophe. Look what happened in South Carolina, you know, Florida, things like that. Of course, we probably won't have storms like that, but you never know when your car might break down. It's just, you just can't get there that day, right? And as much as you wanted to go cast your ballot for whichever side it was or whatever, you know, and that's the best way to do it, right? Is go out there and go do it. Do it early if you have a chance. If you have a day off during the week, like down here in South Texas, we had a schedule to, I believe it was Monday through Friday, and then which was a standard business hours. I believe it was like from 8 to 5, something like that. And on the weekends, it's from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. here in Texas, right? For a lot of these early voting booths, right? And it's great because, you know, if you're off on a Saturday, you got most of the day, but you're going to be standing in line, especially on Saturdays. And if you're off during the week, hey, go for it, man. Go do it. Go do it. And the process of the actual voting it's pretty simple. Pretty freaking simple. It's not even hard. You know, they have somebody that's going to, even if your English is half and half or whatever, if down here in Texas, in the southern states, it's more of a Hispanic mixture, culture, things like that. So they're the language that is down here, especially our TV stations, things like that, is going to be mainly Spanish, right, and English, of course, which is a top. But there's a lot of Spanish-speaking folks around here, and they will have an interpreter there to help you go through the process of the actual voting procedure, right? And I know I talked about this a little bit before when I was talking about the voting booths, right? This was a couple of podcasts before this one here today, and I explained a little bit about the voting booths and what how they're built and everything like that. And it's basically here down in Texas, they're the scan. It's going to be a scan sheet, right? I'm just going to tell you the process that we did here as me and the wife went to go vote yesterday. And the process was pretty simple. We walk into any door, whichever place is going to do. A lot of times we'll have a high school or a they used to have it back in the early days. I remember it was like in a post office sometimes, but there's mainly high schools, senior centers, things like that, where you're going to have even churches. A lot of the church will have these voting booths everywhere. So look at your local town, city, wherever you are in the United States, and go through it and see if there's a list of where the locations that you can go vote, right? Once you get one to your closest location, if you have a voter's card or an ID, which is this is the procedure down here in Texas, is you have to have those one or the other. And what they'll do is they'll scan your driver's license into their database, and then your name will populate, and it'll show who you are, right? So, which is a great thing, right? It's the new system that they have, and it showed my name, it showed my address, it had everything, and they just ask you if everything was correct, right? Which you get to look at the screen, you sign your name, and hit accept. And this is the beginning procedure. If you've never voted before, this is the procedure you do, right? So down here in Texas, I don't know how it is in different states. It might be almost the same, but I believe they're using the same systems as far as the voting booths, right? So remember, these voting booths are not connected to any internet whatsoever. These are just self-systems, self-containing systems. In other words, they have a hard drive, they have all the information, everything is set up in there. It's all digital, touch-based system like your cell phones. So they've made it very simple for you to vote. Okay. Once you do your driver's license, and they'll give you a ticket number, which is going to be your ticket number, and down here in Texas, you'll have a ballot blank sheet of paper. It'll have an arrow on it, and then they'll walk you to whichever booth you want that's there. So basically, I don't know if you've ever done a printer or feed the printer some paper into the printer. And it's real simple. It's got an arrow there. It's going to show you. You just barely place it, and it pretty much sucks your paper, your ballot into there. So once you do that, you go ahead and start. It'll give you a start button. Whatever's happening in your general area. What happened in my screen is they did the presidential election first, and we went to you just kind of touch who you're going to vote for, whichever one, and you hit next. So there's probably going to be about 30, depends the size of your city. And because you're going to do local voting as well. So ours had about 36 to 38 different areas of voting, because we had to do a lot of city mayor, city councilmen. We had to vote on, just different amendments that they were doing here, changes to our taxes and our brackets here to where, there was going to be an increase or decrease. It's just local politics, right? And that was mixed in with the actual general election of the United States for president, of course, and vice president, and then also for any governor that was running or any senate that was running in your state, right? So, or any election area that was taking place in your state will be there for you to vote. Now, some of them will have multiple choice too, so you can actually, in your city government, it'll give you multiple people to vote for. You just don't have to click one, but you can only click one if you want to, or you don't have to click at all. Put your check mark on it, with your finger, because everything's touchscreen. Remember this. So it's pretty basic. Put your glasses on. If you use cheaters, if you're old school like myself, once I hit 30, I ain't gonna lie to you guys. Once I hit 30, 35, I started wearing glasses, right? And there went my near vision. I couldn't see things where I couldn't read very well. Lo and behold, I was wearing cheaters for about 5 years, and then I actually went to a regular transitional lens that I wear daily now. So anyway, once you're there, be sure to take your cheaters with you so you can read the screen, because these screens, they're about the size of, maybe a nice 20-inch or 20, about a 20-inch screen does. So you can read it, but some people have a hard time reading small letters. So just be sure that you have that in place to so you can make your vote, okay? And everything counts when you're doing it. And at the very end, what it'll do is, once you finish your voting process and you vote for all your city elections, and then of course everything that's gone through, you hit next, and then it gives you a screen. It'll show you everything that you voted for, and it'll ask you, is this correct? Because it gives you a chance to go back if you want to change something or whatever, right? You can go back and forth. Doesn't mean it's over. So if you do that, you're able to get the situation that you're there for, right? To get it done. And once you do that, it actually, at the very end, it'll print out your actual ballot with a barcode at the very bottom with all your vote. So this is basically using a Scantron sort of a system, right? Like you did in school back in the day, or we still do now today. It's basically a Scantron, and that computer has done is made the mark for you, and it just kind of prints it all out for you, and there you go. It's almost like your little Texas Lotto machine. There you go. Basically the same thing. So this is what you're doing, the process, and once you finish, it spits out the ballot. You hold the paper in your hands, probably about an 8x10 paper that you're holding, a standard sheet of paper, maybe a little bit bigger. You walk to the next booth, which is going to be the lady that's going to feed it into their machine, the final machine. Once she feeds it into the machine, well, you actually going to feed it. They don't touch it. You're the one that feeds it in. It says put the thing in with the arrow up. It puts it at the very beginning of the machine, and it sucks it in. Once it completes your ballot, it'll give you an American flag there that you have voted. Pretty simple. The whole thing takes about, depends on how fast you read. I was in and out of there within, 20 minutes. So it didn't really take very long. And this is the great part about early voting. You don't have to, I go to these old senior centers, things like that, because it's so much simpler. There's not very many people. And if you go to a high school or a school that's next to you or whatever, there might be, getting closer to the day of the election is probably going to be packed up there, right? So let's make sure that if you do early voting, do it now. Now's the best time. And the only reason why I'm bringing this to your attention is because of the what if factor, right? And we want you guys to go out there, whichever, whoever you're going to vote for, left, right, middle, in between, under the bottom, up, top, whatever you're going to vote for, or whoever you're going to vote for, because there is propositions that you will be voting for, not just people, that you have the time to go do it. And if something gets in the way that day, and what if, and if you got free time right now, like I said, it only takes 15 to 20 minutes if you do it early. The day of the actual voting, you're going to be in line for hours. I've done that before. Oh my God, that was a pain in the rear end, right? So, and not that I didn't want to do it. It's just that by the time I got there, maybe took a break from lunch or whatever it was, I was working, or some bosses are pretty good, where whoever you're working for, hey, I need to go vote. Go. They'll let you go. Not a problem, right? Some of them do. Some of them, hey, no, I need you here. I don't have nobody to cover, right? You might run into some stuff like that. So just kind of make sure that you're okay with your boss voting. You might have meetings at work where they'll say, hey, we'll shut down for whatever, and to go vote. Or some of them, they just don't, they're just too busy, right? Especially in restaurants, fast foods, things like that. That's going to be the hard ones to get out of. So if you're off anytime during the week, and if you're a young voter or maybe an older voter, it doesn't matter. But if you have that sort of a job, then your day off, go get out there. And I know nobody wants to do it on their day off, and then you're going to kick yourself in the rear if it's not the person you wanted to win the election, or your local election, right? Because you didn't go out there and do what you're supposed to do as a voter, right? We're always quick to judge. A lot of us are. Man, this guy should have did that, and then you start kind of pointing fingers or whoever, or she should know, whatever. And you're talking all kinds of smack, and they ask you, did you vote? No. Then you ain't got nothing to say. Really, in reality, man. And that's the reason why you go vote, right? So that way, if somebody asks you, did you vote? Yeah, I did. So that way you have at least some ammunition for yourself. Hello. If you're getting into a little small debate, maybe amongst friends, that, because you can, this is my motto. You can agree to disagree, right? We can all agree to disagree without having a verbal or a physical confrontation, because it's not, it doesn't need to get that far when you're having these kind of conversations with people about politics. Politics should not be that way. Politics should just be about speaking your mind, and then, if you're good with it, if you don't agree with the other person, fine, so be it. Run to the next, subject, or just kind of leave it alone, right? So, and that's what I usually do on situations like that. When it comes to, and don't talk politics. That's a big no-no. If you're drinking with the friends out there, there's two things you don't talk about is religion and politics. No, that's a big no-no. Don't do that, because that gets into altercations. All right. And I'm just kind of giving you the what ifs, but in that sense, just make sure you go out there and do your diligent duty as a patriot. right? Because this is what it's about. You as an American citizen, as long as you're an American citizen, you are a patriot, man. A patriot for your country, no matter whether it's left, right, in between. Be a patriot to your country. Vote. Do the right thing. So that way, when something comes up in the near future, you're not there complaining about it so much, because at least your vote either did make a difference for you or it didn't, because of the majority, right, of the vote, right? And I know it's like, well, there's millions of people, my vote don't count. No, yes, it does. We've seen elections to where they've won by just a few hundred, right? And you could have been one of those 100, and maybe 100 of those people were thinking the same thing you did, and it didn't go your way, right? So think about that just for a minute, and because it's so important for you guys to go out there and vote, and do it early. The only reason I'm saying this today is because not just because I did it, but because you never know, man. You never know what's going to happen out there. You might have a blowout. Your engine might mess up on your car, or you just can't catch the train, or anything like that. The city bus, you miss it. And then you're there trying to struggle to get to your nearest location. The good thing about voting is that they put a lot of these voting booths pretty close to your general area, so you don't have to be so far away, and you don't necessarily have to go to the region where you're at, right? You can, let's just say you work on a different side of town that day, or maybe you get off of work early during early voting. You can go on that side of town that you're on and just go vote, because it's going to go by your ID or wherever. It's not going to go by your area, okay? So, and it might, but it just depends on the state, really, in reality, how they do their local politics and how they're judging the presidential election as it counts, right? But if you want to be in your district, go for it. Wait till you get home. If you got enough time, get at it. Go look at your times and dates. Jump online. Everybody's Googling everything, or DuckDuckGo, or whichever one you're going to use. Go do that, and that way you'll have at least a nice schedule of, and then put it on your phones. Everybody's phones are like mini freaking computers now. If you don't know how to use it, jump on your calendar, click your calendar. There's a little plus sign there. Click the plus sign, and it'll put it in the date. You can even speak to your phone, and it'll put the date in there for you, right? And things are so simplified now these days, to where it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out how to get your calendar going or things like that. I know people are not interested in computer or computer literacy, or even their phones. They're not interested in things like that. But unfortunately, that's the technology of today. Now, just think about this just for a minute. Like maybe in the 1700s or the early 1800s, where they were just trying to make your mark. In other words, you were just putting an X, or you were doing a check mark, or you were just putting your initial, and if you didn't know how to write, that's what it was, right, back in the day. And then once it went to mechanical voting booths, you're in there like, well, what do I do? What do I, it's like very alienated, because you don't understand the technology that has changed. Even though it's only in the 1900s, it might, to us, it's antiquities, but back then to those people it's totally different, right? So they had to learn the new process. What I'm trying to say is technology has changed today to where you have to learn the technology that you're holding in your hand, laptop, iPad, or anything like that you can use to navigate through daily life, because that's our technology of today, right? To where you have to basically do everything online, through your phone, through your watch now. Dick Tracy came true. If you guys are as old as I am, yeah, Dick Tracy, of course that was a lot before my time, but they were predicting that back in the day, right? So, and here it comes. It came to pass. Yeah, here it is today. This is what it is, right? And this is how we're living in our technology today. So please understand the technology, whether you're 18 or you're 80. Okay. Understand the technology that you're using today. Understand the process. Understand everything that you're going to go do an early vote if you're going to do an early vote. Okay, this is what this podcast is about today, because I wanted everybody to understand the process of early voting. It's not very hard. It's pretty simple, man. You'll be in and out in 20 minutes if you do it early, right? I highly suggest senior centers, a church somewhere. I mean, even if you don't have to be religious, but the process, the people are very friendly. You're in and out of there pretty darn quick, right? And you don't have to be there, just tearing your hair out of your head because you're standing in a line of thousands of people or hundreds, and you can't get to the voting booth, within 5 hours from where you're standing. Almost like a concert, like you're going to buy concert tickets or a new Star Wars movie, right? So basically, do it early, and that's the best way you can. I'm just going to kind of give you a couple of if you're in Texas and you're listening to this, there's an article here from the Texas Tribune, and it just kind of tells you what's your do's and don'ts of a Texas Tribune, right? This might work in your state too. I don't know, but depends on what your state has for provisions, right? So, and it just says if registered voter's name does not appear on the voter's registration list because of an administrative issue, you still have the right to cast your provisional ballot. Remember that, okay? It says voters generally have the right to cast their ballots in secret and should not be subject to any intimidation. Remember that, okay? Nobody has to be there over your shoulder watching what you're doing. If somebody's there, tell them, hey, move over. None of your business what I'm doing. Let me cast my vote. Basically, that goes in general for everything and every voter out there, because there's going to have a little black wall next to you, almost like a little booth, so people don't see what you're voting for or who you're voting for, right? It says voters are entitled to get written instructions about how they cast their ballot, or to ask a polling place officer or worker, but do not want to know who they're voting for. In other words, you're not supposed to tell them who you're voting for. Don't tell them. They're just going to kind of help you through the process, okay? Unless you can't see, maybe, but I don't know how that's going to work. But pretty much take your cheaters, man. Borrow somebody's cheaters. That would probably be the best way if you can't see very well. And it says, remember to review your ballot from possible errors. Now, remember, when I cast my ballot yesterday, it gave me the whole the list before I clicked out the print, before I finalized, because I want to make sure it had everybody I voted for, right? And everything I voted for as well. It says your ballot, you have the right to get up to 2 additional ballots to make corrections, all right? The incorrect ballots will be spoiled and not counted, right? So just make sure that. It says Texas law, voters says that the voters have the right to vote during working hours without being penalized or losing pay. Hey, there you go. So now we're talking business, right? Remember that. This is for Texas. So it says, but this may not apply if any worker has 2 hours before or after work to go vote. Hello. They're giving you time. Like, hey, if you got time, in other words, if you go in, if your polling hours, your voting hours are between 8 and, let's just say 8 and 5. Okay. You can't go early, like at 6, because it's not going to be open. So, you know what I mean? They don't want you to be in there before that, whatever. They're not going to pay you for that. You can only pay you for what you're there for during your working hours, okay? Or leave early. That's how a lot of them will do. It says on election day, voters have the right to cast their ballots as long as they're in line by 7 p.m., okay? So this is on election day. It says voters with disabilities or limited English proficiency can get interpretation, right? Assistance or accommodations to vote. I was speaking about this earlier. It says read more about this in the next section. Here we go. Right? So anyway, so it just says if you run into trouble with your county official or Secretary of State office, it just tells you to call this number, 1-800-242-252-VOTE. And just to make sure you have voter protection hotlines or coalition for voting right groups, okay? In other words, if you see any kind of fraud, anything like that, you are able to use that hotline to call that in. All right. Just make sure everything looks fair to you, and that's what I did. I walked in there. I just wanted to make sure everything looked legit on the if you ask questions, you can ask questions about the voter ballot box even after you're done and what they do with it or whatever, and they'll say, well, no, we lock it down, this person's here watching, and this is what happens, right? The process, because that's what they told me. I asked about it, and then the nice lady told me, yeah, this is what we do. This is the box that all your ballot's going to go in. We lock it down, and then it goes here, and then we wait for security or whatever is going to help us put it into the final ballot vote, right? So this is how this process works, and it's a great process. I think it's a great process the way they're doing it here in Texas, just to make sure everything is legit on the up and narrow, as it should be. Hey, that's what voting is about, right? And like I said, if you don't go out there and vote, you can't really complain too much about stuff. You can't. You don't have that argument to do anything, because whoever wins this election as president or mayor, governor, whoever, Senate, and if you didn't go vote, you really don't have an argument. So just kind of remember that. I mean, you can as a citizen and as a taxpayer, yeah, I get that part, but and I get it. There's some people that you might have 5 kids, you don't have nobody to watch the kids, you can't make it that day, right? And okay, those are things that we can understand, right? Or you're too elderly, or it's just ways you can't get out there, right? And we get that part. But if you're, working, strong person, out there working, doing what you got to do, you got time to go out there and go to barbecues and party and have a good time. Well, you got time to go vote. Get out there and go do it. This is just my opinion, nobody else's. But I just want to make sure that all you guys understand the due process of the voting and the way it is, as it was for me yesterday. Very smooth process, and it was something that I really enjoyed doing, and I felt good about it. I did, because it was just that I got to cast my vote. I am a strong patriot, and I forgot to bring it up at the beginning of this podcast. We do recognize all the military that's out there, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, National Guard, everybody, the Space Force, everybody that's out there that's making a difference and being a patriot. Thank you guys for out there and serving and protecting America today. But the thing I was talking about voting is it made me feel good, because I wanted to make sure that my vote was out there, and I can't really complain. It's just I have to make sure that I did it early, because there was a few years back I wasn't able to. And I was younger, and I was just doing my thing, right? Just doing my thing. I didn't count. My vote didn't count. That's the way I was thinking when I'm talking about my 20s, right? I wasn't really sharp as a tack back then, but I'm still kind of there. But anyway, this is how my process was. Now it's like, no, this is important. This is important to everything that I love as a patriot. So I want to make sure that everything that I believe in, everything that's out there, is protected in the way it's supposed to be, and just me as a patriot, as an American first, right? So this is what this podcast is about. We are unbiased, right? So I hope you guys are enjoying today's podcast. It was a short one for America's Podcast. I know I hadn't had one in a few weeks, but I just been so busy catching up with all these elections and oh man, it was just great to get a lot of this news, and I'm just staying on top of things, right? Just like you guys are today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. Remember, you can catch all our links. It's going to say all my links after this podcast. This was a live podcast today on Spreaker. Catch us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, CastBox, Deezer, you name it. We got it. Amazon Music. You can ask Alexa, play some of this America's Podcast. You know what? She's going to do it. She's going to do it. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one, where I will be talking about the war between Russia, possibility, how Russia and China are cahoots together. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I might do that one on a video. I don't know, but we'll see. Catch us on Rumble as well on our video podcast. Like I said, click on all my links. You'll see everything for America's Podcast, our Twitter, everything, X, whatever it is now. catch us all over the place, right? But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed today's America's Podcast. Remember, go vote, do the early vote, do the right thing. That way, you can win your argument, right? Hey, that's a good thing, right? All right, guys, have a good day. My name is Don Ledesma, America's Podcast. Follow us all over the place. Don't forget, look at our merch. We got some new coffee coming up for America's Podcast. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Great tasting stuff, man. Oh, my God. It's so good. Anyway, catch you on the next one. America's Podcast.